Hello everybody, how's it doing, how's it going? Welcome back to another fan reading on Tales from the Creeps. Today we're looking at something I haven't read before. It's an anthology series. This is by Nightmare Hut, I believe his name was. I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to check it out. But the journal entries we'll be looking today is called Lochwood. I will be reading all 4 journal entries. Some of them are short, some of them are kind of in the middle. They're kind of long, kind of not. But I'm excited to get into this, so thank you to the author for letting me read his story. I really appreciate it. So again, if you want to check out the author, I will leave the link in the description below if you want to check out all of the Lochwood entries. So, without further ado, the Lochwood series. Lochwood, Part 0. Teaser. Open your eyes. The moonlight guides your way through the brush. You can hardly recognize the dense forest surrounding you, and yet, you know where you're going. An hour ago, you were fast asleep on the couch. How'd you get here? Where are you? Branches cry out under your bare feet, and leaves above move to obscure your only source of light, but no avail. A chill race move through the woods, and the percussion of branches become almost deafening. Hurry. Climb over a boulder. Stamp moss, brushing mud off your trembling skin. Under a branch, through a thicket. You've been wandering for what feels like hours at this point. If it can't be that far away, it should be right there. You thrust your head through a bush, its thorns failing to hold you back. Ahead stands a colossal tree, its roots streaking across the forest floor in incomprehensible patterns. The woods thus far have been unrecognizable, but that tree, you've been here before, haven't you? You step forward into the clearing, toward the gaping mouth of the monolith. You're not alone. There are hundreds of eyes upon you, waiting patiently. You begin to turn your head. Don't look at them. A feeling creeps in, and you're soon relieved knowing they won't budge. They just want to know if it's real. The urge to turn and run grows. You're not supposed to be here. It's not supposed to be real. The moon seems to have doubled in size, casting a blushing haze upon the clearing. And inching forward, you notice the lack of any form of life on the ground. Not a single bug crawls, not a blade of grass pokes through. It's all just root. Upon reaching the opening, you freeze. It's not supposed to look like that. It's not supposed to sound like that. Go in. You wander in, and the tree swallows you whole. Inside, a heart pounds high above you, and your heart speeds up to match its pace. The walls pulse in and out slowly, wood creaking with every inch of movement. Step forward. The wooden cave, its dirt floor, you've dreamt of it as if a child. I remember, you could never find it, no matter how hard you looked. You looked through the wall ahead, where the bark became skin and the wood becomes flesh. There it is. A rectangular shape protrudes out of the wall, the skin stretched to its limits, revealing an array of amber veins. As you creep closer, the heart above pounds faster and faster. This can't be real. It's just a bad dream. Reach forward. It needs to be seen. Through every fiber of your being tells you to run. The compulsion is too much to bear. You dig your hands into the gelatinous pouch, tearing the skin and coating them in a vicious fluid, which looks to be blood. It oozes out of the gash like sap. You grab onto your target. Pull it out. The heartbeat is racing now. Moonlight reveals what appears to be a dense journal, coated in a thin film filled with a cloudy liquid. You can barely see a title through the fluid. Just one word. As you tear the film and reveal the journal to the moon, a choir of wildfire suddenly erupts outside, each animal louder than the next. The recuse crowd rattles you to the bone. Read it. You swipe away the liquid and bring it closer to the moonlight. You can just barely make it out. No, dear God, no. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. Lochwood. Interesting. I wonder how this is gonna go. That's fun. I don't really know how to describe this besides like this like old like uh atmosphere of like deep woods. It's just very interesting. I'm not sure where this is gonna go, but I'm curious to see what the first entry, well, the second, it says entry 1, but it's technically entry 2. Anyway, all right, on to Lochwood, entry 1, The Wailing Man. Hey y'all, didn't know where else to go, so I'm posting this here. My name is Josh. I live in New York, but not the New York you're thinking about. Contrary to popular belief, there's an entire state attached to this city, and I just happen to live in the middle of nowhere. Great place to spawn. Anyway, I found something crazy last night. Well, maybe. I don't know where it came from exactly, but it's in my house now. I just had this crazy nightmare. I can hardly remember it, but I jotted a few points down in my dream journal. Don't ask. I was walking through the woods, but not anywhere I recognized. I grew up in the area, and this being, well, the middle of nowhere, there's not much for a kid to do but play in the woods until it gets dark. So I'm fairly confident I know where I was if this were a local forest. Anyhow, I eventually came to a clearing with a big tree, which had a cave-like opening. The inside of the tree was weird, like it was alive. Yeah, I know trees are alive, but this was different. Like it was inside of an animal, but it was also a tree. There was one part of the wall in front of me that was straight flesh, and there was this weird rectangular protrusion. I don't know what got into. I don't know what got it. I am so sorry. I don't know what got into me, but I stuck my hands in and pulled it out. It was a book. Well, journal is a better word to describe it, but it was thick like a novel. Its black leather cover containing a mountain of yellow, disfigured pages. On the cover stuck a length of white tape which, written in black ink, contained one word. Lochwood. And then I woke up, like immediately in my bed. No sign of mud or whatever else I would have tracked in from the woods. I wrote down what I remembered in my dream journal and started to go back to bed when I noticed something on the desk. Not gonna hype it up, it was the same journal from the dream. I know, this is hard to believe, but I swear on my cat's life, that's what happened. If you know me, you know I love my cat and I would never endanger his life to tell a lie. I'm 100% serious. On God, no cat, bro. That kind of threw me for a loop there. I wasn't expecting, for real, no cap, uh, curly hairstyle teenager. But all right, we're going for it. If you can't already tell, I'm in my early 20s and chronically online. So curiosity got the better of me, and I started reading through the possibly haunted journal that just randomly appeared in my house. As all rational people would do, let me tell you, there's something weird about this thing. It talks about a local place called Camp Lochwood and all the weird stuff that goes on there. Now, as I've stated multiple times, I've lived my entire life here. There's no such thing as Camp Lochwood. I even looked it up to double check. Nothing. Unless someone decided to break into my house and leave behind a writing project that I just so happen to have a nightmare about, I'm going to rule out this being a hoax. That's why I came here. I need to get some other opinions on this because I'm lost. What the hell is this thing? Since I have a job, I don't have time to type out this entire journal at once without losing my sanity. I'm going to upload individual entries over time. Without further ado, here's entry 1. My name is blank. Years ago, I blank. It's kind of redacted. That's kind of cool. As I sit here pondering what to put in this journal, I find myself transfixed by the fire crackling before me. The rushing water, howling of coyotes, and cries of crickets, try as they might, can't seem to win over my attention. Staring into the dancing flames, scorching the flesh of this damn forest, to hell with it all. I think to myself, I've lived my entire life in these here woods, and yet they always seem to surprise me. Maybe I should just let it burn. No, fire won't go far. I don't even know why they want me to do this. So your stories aren't lost to time, he tells me. Not like anyone listens to them now, but boss man gets what he wants. Regardless, I could use a new hobby. If you don't already know me, just call me Pete. I work in maintenance. If for some reason you don't know where we are, then welcome to Camp Lochwood. We're nestled right in the heart of the Catskill Mountains. When I say we're in the middle of nowhere, I mean it. The closest house, about 30 miles away. Closest gas station, around 40. You don't even have to cell service it. It's the perfect getaway. Starting out early in the 20th century as an all-boys summer camp, Lochwood has slowly but surely grown into one of upstate New Yorkers' premier vacation spots. Open 24/7, year-round. It's a mountain paradise. So long as you follow the rules, of course, for the most part. Our guests do, and they leave having been restored by the healing touch of nature. However, I can't begin to count the number of stories I've heard over the span of being here. Hidden in the endless forest surrounding Lochwood, like horrors only God can comprehend. Don't believe me? I don't blame you. I never believed myself until the bodies started showing up, and guess who had to clean them up after? This place just has a nasty habit of killing people in ways you'd think were now possible. Or impossible. Now, as I said before, we have a wide assortment of strange rules that you're supposed to read through before you come here. But as anyone who has worked in retail can attest, customers don't like following the rules. We try to scare people into acting accordingly. Every counselor is trained to recite a boatload of campfire stories to guests of all ages. For the most part, it works on the kids. Summer camp is usually the easiest time of the year in that regard. Our older guests, on the other hand, are stubborn and often find themselves in a heap of trouble. That's why I decided to collect together all the stories I've heard around camp in my 40+ years of working here. If the campfire stories don't do the trick, one of these should. For the sake of readability, I will pretty things up in a bit and turn them into an actual stories instead of just hearsay. I've been playing way too much Warhammer. I don't know why I said heresy. Hearsay. And I'm sorry, I am dyslexic, okay? I am doing the best I can to read this. I swear I'm not trying to butcher this story on purpose. So just bear with my awful dyslexia. Okay, just remember, these are all based on true events. Now, I know there are people reading this who think it's a load of horse shit. Just keep reading, humor yourself. This ain't nothing more than an old man telling campfire stories. But if you plan on surviving this job, gather around and listen good. Like all rules, these stories are written with blood. The first story is one of a vividly remember hearing about. Alright, since it's an old man, should I use an old man voice? Alright, I want to try that. The first one is one of vividly remember hearing about. Happened not too long ago, actually. I was there for the aftermath. Terrible morning. Anyways, the original story is a campfire favorite. It's tradition to tell it all our guests on the first night. There's no way you can leave Lochwood without hearing the tale of the Wailing Man. You serious, right? Yeah, serious. Come on, you're telling me you worked here for 2 years and no one's told you about the Wailing Man? A group of counselors all seated around a campfire digging a rhyme. It's a calm night in May, a couple of weeks before the chaos of summer camp. Above shines a sky of 1,000 stars, so clear that the Milky Way is visible with the naked eye. Ears are filled with the melodies of distant frogs. Noises are filled with the smell of charred wood and burnt marshmallows. I mean, seriously, it's like the first story they tell you, Brian continues. I don't know why you're making such a big fuss about it. It's not that big a deal, Edith says. I'm not trying to overreact, I'm just think it's weird he doesn't know. Claire steps out from one of the 5 cabins surrounding the crackling fire, 6-pack in hand. She takes a seat on the picnic table next to Ryan and begins passing out beers. One more for the road, Claire remarks. Well, you've got time to tell me their story now. Gotta finish that beer before you leave, Ryan says. Nah, bro. I've told that story like 1,000,000 times. You couldn't pay me to say it again. I'm sick of my stomach just thinking about it, Brian says, followed by an exaggerated gag. Brian, they literally pay you to tell it, Edith replies. Yeah, but they have the money to. Besides, you're going to hear it in a couple of days anyway, so who cares? Don't make me do it. I'm told you tell it the best, Claire says. Brian lets out a sigh. Shit, when you put it like that, I don't know what you think, Rico. Rico looks up from his phone. What? You think I tell it the best? Tell what the best? Wailing Man? Were you not listening? No, dude. It's almost like midnight. I'm falling asleep just listening to you guys. Wow, I'm heartbroken. Think I'm boring. You're going to make me cry, Brian sarcastically remarks. Rico stands up. Yeah, boring. Boo-hoo. And stuff. I think I'm going to head home. Rico says to a response of jeers. Jeers? What's jeers? Someone tell me that in the comments, please. You're not going to stay for the story? Claire asks. Nah, it's way past my bedtime. If I stay any longer, I might pass out on my walk home. Good night, y'all, Rico says. Everyone's saying good night in return. He walks off and the counselor focus on the flame. Well, his loss, Brian says. Ryan, you might want to ride home after this. I think I'll be fine. Ryan takes a sip from his drink. Brian proceeds to crack a shit-eating grin. I don't think you will. Dude, just tell the story, Edith pleads. All right. Brian takes a swig from his drink and leans in towards the fire. A little over 100 years ago, there was a log cabin out in these woods west of here. It was one of the largest camps in the state, at one point having over 60 loggers hard at work every day. One day, this scrawny-looking guy by the name of Elias walks in, looking for work. At first, the foreman told him to get lost. No way a man your size can keep up. It just so happens that the guy was a logging machine, able to cut down trees twice as fast as the rest. Though the rest of the crew resented Elias. For the first few months, things went smoothly. That was until Elias met Rachel, the wife of John, another crew member. Interesting. I like how it's taking kind of like a folktale turn to this. Alright. Brian paused to take another swig. Turns out, Rachel and John were not on good terms. One night, he went out drinking and left her alone in his cabin. How selfish, she thought. She had traveled from another state to spend time with him, and would just leave her like that? She wanted to hurt him, the way he had hurt her for the last 10 years. Les was the one few who stayed back, and since he wasn't too fond of John, he had no problem doing what he was about to do. John and his crew ended up returning to the camp sooner than expected, and they found two sleeping together in John's cabin. When Elias noticed the group, he sprang up and ran out the back door into the woods. Brian takes another pause. Rustling is heard in the distant bush, grabbing everyone's attention. After a few seconds of silence, he continues. Now, John wasn't going to let him get away with it. Oh no. He and his boys chased him after him, each armed with an array of knives. After a while of running, Elias tripped over a fallen tree and fell face first into the ground. The ground caught up onto him and held him down. The group caught up to him and held him down. Fists and boots began raining down on his feeble body, weakened from a day's worth of hard labor. Elias attempted to get away, but John grabbed him by the ankle. Oh no, you're not getting away! John pulled out a knife and began sawing away at the back of the ankle as he had grabbed, slicing his Achilles tendon in two. As he screamed in pain, John did the same to the other ankle. His feet went limp, and Elias had no way to escape. John, in a fit of rage, began rambling incoherently before sticking his hand in Elias's mouth and grabbing his jaw. With his hand, he broke his jaw so he could not speak. With his knife, he gouged out his eyes so he could not see. As the final act of revenge, he proceeded to peel his face off, leaving him a bloody mess. As Elias wailed in pain, the group walked off, leaving him to mercy of nature. Ryan shifts uncomfortably in his seat and asks, "You tell this story to children?" "Not like this, anyways." Days went by without anything of the ordinary. It was assumed that Elias got drunk and wandered off into the woods. A search party was made, but there was no sign of the man. John and his crew went back to the spot where they attacked him and found nothing. Assuming a bear got to him first, later that night, while everyone was fast asleep, the camp was awoken with the sound of a distant wailing. John recognized the sound immediately. It was the same cry that Elias let out. The wailing went on long enough for the entire camp to leave their cabins and investigate. Eventually, the wailing stopped and a crackling voice enveloped the entire camp. "I can't feel my face!" The distant, a man's screams were heard, a recognizable voice that drew the attention of the crew. Men grabbed their axes and knives and rushed to save whoever was in trouble. The same voice cried out again, "I can't feel my face!" followed by multiple painful shrieks. John stood in the middle of camp, dumbfounded by the chaos erupting around him. Screams in all different directions. To his left, one man was knocked to his feet by an unidentified figure and dragged into the woods. To his right, a man walked out into camp, his entire head degloved. John turned around and rushed back into his cabin. Inside, Rachel was huddled in the corner, rocking back and forth, eyes pinched closed, hands over her ears. Suddenly, the back door of the cabin burst open, and John faced his impending doom. Elias floated in the doorway, feet dragging on the ground, looking just as he left him. His jaw hung open, blood dripping from where his face used to be. Though his mouth didn't move, a voice shot out from the gaping jaw. "I can't feel my face!" The wailing man started floating rapidly toward him, but John slammed the door in his face, holding it closed with his body as it was pounding against it with an unhuman force. Eventually, the pounding stopped, and everything was silent. No noise inside or outside the cabin. John sighed with relief, but his moment of peace was ended when he felt a hot, humid breath on the back of his neck, and a voice whispered in his ear, Give it. Ryan jumps in his seat as the rest of the counselors begin laughing. Rico walks out from behind Ryan and makes his presence known, allowing Ryan to strike a few retaliatory punches. "Don't do that!" Ryan yells as Brian almost falls out of his seat. "You should have seen the look on your face!" Brian attempts to say in between breaths. Edith falls out of her seat in a fit of laughter while Clara laughs uncomfortably. Having also been scared by Rico's addition to the story, Brian composes himself and stands. "Well, that's enough for one night. Good night, guys." "That's it? You're just gonna leave after that?" Ryan asks. Yeah. It's midnight, dude. I gotta work in the morning. I'm a responsible employee. So now I gotta walk all the way across camp after hearing that? What am I supposed to do if I see the wailing man? Oh, that's right. I didn't get to that part. Well, basically, Rachel was the sole survivor because she didn't move. So if you see or hear him, don't move a muscle. Okay, bye! Brian turns and walks back to the cabin. Rico and Edith say their goodbyes and walk off in separate directions, leaving Clara and Ryan. You want me to walk? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You want me to walk you back? Clara jokingly asks. Ryan, still visibly shaken, puts on an over-exaggerated display of bravery. Nah, I'll be fine. That didn't scare me a bit. I saw you jump a foot off the bench, Clara laughs. I was just getting ready to fend you, obviously. Whatever. I'll see you tomorrow. Clara begins heading off to her cabin. The silence has become deafening, but Ryan silently reassures himself that it's just a story. If the little man was real, he'd have seen him by now. Ryan leaves the fire and walks into the woods, taking a shortcut to his cabin. Every sound that used to disappear in the background is amplified. Each snap of a branch, each gust of wind, takes his heartbeat up more and more. At one point, Ryan hears the shuffling of grass ahead of him and freezes. His heartbeat reassumes after a chipmunk scurries across the path. Getting cursed at by Ryan, he continues down the path. An owl hoots in a tree above him. Soon after flaps its wings, flying off to catch its next meal. Ryan stops in his tracks again. Did he just hear something? He quickly jerks his head back. Nothing. He walks faster now, seemingly trying to outpace his paranoia. There's no way they'll try to scare him again. People aren't supposed to be out at this time of night anyway. His inner monologue is interrupted by what sounds like something dragging. Ryan is frozen in the middle of the road now, his cabin visibly in the distance. He feels the urge to run, especially when he hears a wailing coming from the path, getting closer and closer. Brian, I swear to God, don't fucking do this to me! Ryan yells out, hearing an unidentified voice in response. I can't feel my face! The wailing and dragging of feet reaching the end of the path. Ryan's heart stops when a tall, dark figure emerges from the woods. Floating in the air, its feet dangling and scrape the ground as it hovers toward him. Mouth agape, chasms where eyes should be. Its body is covered by black, tattered clothing. Its arms hang limp to its sides. Fresh blood drips from where its face used to be. I can't feel my face! Ryan stares in horror as the figure continues to slowly float in his direction. He's not supposed to move, but what if he bumps into him? Does it see him? His cabin's not too far from here. He can make a break for it and... No. He needs to follow the rules. Don't move. As Brian said, the figure draws nearer and nearer. He starts to pray in his head for forgiveness, for protection, for anything to be where he is now. The wailing man stops, just feet away from him, still staring. Everything goes numb, as if time itself stopped. Give it back! To hell with the rules. Ryan sprints towards the cabin, dragging feet keep pacing close behind him. The same wailing as before roars thunderously behind him, but this time it's reversed. His heart pounds faster than he's ever felt before. His legs go numb as if they aren't there, but he keeps speeding forward. He's never run this fast before, and yet the wailing man continues to gain on him. The reverse wailing just inches behind his head now. He shoots up the stairs into his cabin, reaches for the door, swings it open, and slams it shut, locking it and pressing his body against it as the animalistic pounding threatens to tear it down. As the pounding continues on the door, Ryan hears something at the window to his right. He doesn't see anything through the window, but it nonetheless slides a bit, as if something tried to open it from the outside. The invisible figure begins to move from the window to window on both sides of the cabin, almost instantly, as if there were two people from the front of the cabin toward the back. As the attempts reach the back of the cabin, he remembers something and drains the blood from the face. The back door doesn't lock. Seeing no other choice but to hide, Ryan launches from the door over his bed, crawling under just in time for the pounding in the front door to stop and for the back door to swing open. The cabin is completely silent now, all except for the dragging of feet on the wooden floor. Ryan covers his mouth and watches as the dangling feet drag around the bed onto the bathroom, out of the bathroom and into the counselor's room, out of the counselor's room and back into the main room. The feet stop right in front of the bed, facing the front door. He holds his breath, staring at the dangling feet for what felt like hours, until he hears a coarse voice under the bed, right behind him. Give it back! Now, as I said earlier, I was there for the aftermath. My cabin's not too far from where he was. I was woken up by the sound of screaming. Get out of bed to find Clara at his door of his cabin, bawling her eyes out. I knew exactly what happened when I saw his body. His body laid at the foot of the door, a blood trail leading back under the bed, found his face in a shrub behind the cabin. The Willing Man is an especially insidious demon. The way to survive goes against our very instinct. But when telling his story, you need to emphasize the point. If you see or hear the Wailing Man, remember this. Do not move. That was really cool. Holy crap. That was awesome. I love the description of the Wailing Man, how it's like this cursed spirit of a man who was just murdered after, he had sex with this dude's wife. Man, that was a banger story. I love that. That was awesome. All right. I wanna take a little break here, and then we'll get into Lockwood Entry 2, Unmarked Pits. Okay, alright, I'm back. Hi everyone, Josh here. I did a little more digging into this whole Camp Lockwood thing. Last time I just looked it up on Google, but apparently Google sucks now, so I tried some different methods. Gonna spoil the ending. I found nothing. Well, almost nothing. First, I called my parents and grandparents to ask if the name Lockwood rang any bells. Nothing. They just wanted to know why I haven't called them in months. I'm busy, goddammit. Next, I tried out the whole horror movie, go to the library and do some research montage type shit, nothing but... I did finally get a library card. Support your local libraries, people. Anyway, I said almost nothing earlier. I tried looking through some old 4chan threads, nothing about Lockwood. But there was a bunch of talking about the Wailing Man there in the woods. Pretty spooky. Anyway, here's entry 2. This, I get why he has to do these entries. It's just the Gen Z dialogue just gets me. Okay, alright. Lately, I've been wondering to myself what exactly we do here. To that, a common man would say something akin to, well, we get people away from their screens and into nature. And to an extent, they're not wrong. To a young man, that's plenty motivation to keep going, keep providing a necessary service. I, on the other hand, have dedicated over 40 years of my life to keeping this place running. Oftentimes, I feel as if we were a life wasted. Now, I know it's a negative way to looking at things, and I know this is a purposeful work. It's just what happens outside of summer camp, though we try our hardest to provide, alongside entertainment, a meaningful change to the lives of our guests. There are many groups of people who treat this place as a glorified resort, people who refuse to learn. However, once summer rolls along, I'm reminded of why we do this, of why we're still here. We're here to teach the next generation, to preserve the future. Children arrive drained of all color, wired to machines and programmed by the school system to work their 9 to 5 without question, just as our benevolent government designed it. After their 2 weeks of camp, though, our children leave imbued with a newfound creativity and a care for the natural world, and with new skills such as teamwork, inclusiveness, and general survival skills. What I'm trying to get at is that, well, I'm happy here. I'm happy because I provide more than I consume, because I work every day to make the world a brighter place. I don't know why I went on this tangent. I feel as though I wrote this for myself more so than others. Anyways, that's enough rambling for now. It's time to jump into another story. On Memorial Day weekend a few years ago, we got a group of college kids from MIT majoring in architecture. Now to preface, we have a whole bunch of fire pits littered all around camp, so much so that every single cabin has its own. Each pit is marked down on the map. You can't miss them. What you can and should miss are the rest of them. Buried deep in the woods are countless stone circles, perfect for building and fire. As you're probably assumed by now, as the story's unfortunate protagonists learn the hard way, you should not use them under any circumstances. You're going to want to sit by a campfire for this one. Grab a bundle of sticks, don't forget the bag of marshmallows, and when looking for a fire pit, make sure you stay far, far away from any unmarked pits. Hello everyone, welcome to Fire Starting 101. My name is Brian, and I will be your professor this evening. Please keep your hands and feet inside the ride vehicle at all times to prepare for fire. Brian's corny introduction did not get the reaction he wanted, only a pity laugh from Dr. Hawthorne. The rest of the group just stared in silence. Okay, let's start with Tinder. It's late afternoon, though the sun is still high in the sky. A sign that summer is rapidly approaching. A lukewarm breeze flies through a small crowd of college students gathered in front of the fire pit. In front of them stands a vast forest filled with aging trees, a wall of shrubbery acts as barrier. Behind them lies a gorgeous view, a deep valley flanked by a stunning green mountain. Situated toward the back of the crowd of 20 stands, Luke, Frank, and Paulina, the three hardly paying attention. I don't know why we gotta sit through this. Who doesn't know how to start a fire? Frank whispered. I've never done it before, Luke replied in a similarly hushed voice. That's crazy, grown-ass man. You can't even start a fire. Fuck you, Frank. I could build one faster than you. Short conversation is halted by a quick shush from Dr. Hawthorne. Frank continues on his fire, starting spell, as the crowd watches in silence, most bored out of their minds. After what feels like an hour, it's finally time to practice. The crowd splits into groups of 4, spreading out into the 5 fire pits surrounding the lit one in the middle. Luke, Frank, Paulina, and Dr. Hawthorne kneel around their pit, tasked with working together to light their own fire. So, how are we doing this? Paulina chimed in, allowing not a moment of silence following the group's information. We? No. You 3 are building it. I want to see how well you paid attention. Dr. Hawthorne responded, as expected. Of course. Well, Dr. Hawthorne, I didn't know you couldn't build a fire. I'll be sure to keep this secret between us. Frank winked, followed by a part of Hawthorne's shoulder. Kid, you're talking to an Eagle Scout. I've built bonfires before your parents reached their 1st grade. I'm sure George Washington was impressed by your fire-making skills, Paulina added, elicited a chuckle from Hawthorne. Well, if there's one thing I remember, George telling me, it's that you need materials to start fire. You should probably go get some. The trio stands up, and as the rest of the group begin to do, heads off into the woods to collect the needed materials, pushing their way through a break in... Oh my gosh, I am so sorry, I'm butchering the story. Pushing their way through a break in the thicket. It says ticket, I think it means thicket. They find themselves buried under canopies of aging trees, providing a welcome respite from the beaming sun. They walk off their own direction, picking up bundles of sticks and loose dry bark. I love how Hawthorne looked at you when he shushed us, Frank remarked. Yeah, me too. He's getting worse and worse at hiding his disappointment, Luke replied. You know what'll impress him? Other than actually doing our homework? Yeah, other than that. Alright, let me hear it. You, my friend, should build the fire yourself. Oh, I'm sure that'll help me pass this class. No, I'm actually dead ass. He thinks you're not taking this seriously. You were actually paying attention, right? Is anyone? Okay, let me talk you through it. Frank gives Luke a quick lesson on fire making, an abridged version of Brian's speech, but an effective one nonetheless. Paulina walks over, hugging her collection of sticks, and is updated on the plan. They headed out of the woods and back to the fire pit. Took you long enough. Everyone else is smoking already, Hawthorne joked. Well, they took all our sticks. We had to go on an expedition to find some, Frank said before handing Luke a handful of kindling. Luke's gonna build the fire. Maybe we'll find his calling in life. Luke, not acknowledging Hawthorne's quip, begins setting up his fire, sets up the kindling in a little teepee and stuffs it full of loose bark and dried up plants on the side. He places some bark under a notched stick, grabs another stick, places it over a notch, and begins spinning it. With his hand flattened, he starts at the top of the stick and rubs it back and forth until they reach the bottom, then moves them back up to go again. He repeats the cycle over and over until a large patch of smoke dust collects on the bank. He transfers the bark over to the tinder and begins blowing on it. Nothing. Gotta try again, Frank says. Luke repeats the whole process, the group getting visibly restless. The other fire pits are filled with dancing flames. If there still stands a bit of smoke floating up, he collects more smoking coals and dumps them into the tinder, blowing again, but this time too hard and the tinder refuses to catch. Maybe someone else should try, Hawthorne suggests. No, I can do this. Luke repeats again and again and again, and yet no fire is lit. Luke is visibly frustrated at this point, too stubborn to quit. Luke, that's enough. Let someone else try, Hawthorne stated. No, I know how to build a fire. Luke, I really think I can do this! Luke shouts, drawing the attention of the crowd. Everyone begins to silently watch, waiting for the outburst to continue. Luke notices his newfound attention and feels a tightening in his chest, turns and runs off into the woods. Luke, hey, come back! Frank yells, standing up to go after him. Frank, stop. Let him have some space, Hawthorne commands. But what if he gets lost? Paulina adds, to no response. After a bit of silence, okay, let's practice a different method, Brian says, trying to refocus the group. Luke stomps through the woods, paying no attention to where he walks. Tears begin to well up in his eyes, breath coming shorter and more violent. As he walks, he repeats the same line to himself over and over again. You can't do anything right. You can't do anything right. You can't do anything right. He bumps into a log and takes a seat, hands over his face. Fuck! He shouts before slowly sliding his hands down his reddened face, tears continuing to stream, stifling more and more. Looking around, Luke notices a gray squirrel in the tree branch in front of him. It scurries along the branch, climbs down the tree, curls up its tail, and begins hopping along the ground. Hops into a rock and pauses for a moment before turning and speeding off. The rock in question was one of many, symboled into a perfectly shaped circle. Luke stands and walks over to inspect the intriguing circle. Somehow, whoever made this pit gathered near identical rocks to serve as the wall. Inside the circle and planted on the ground was a perfectly made spiral, each successive rock getting just a bit smaller until the center, which looked no larger than a grain of sand. The ground between the spirals contained ash, but surprisingly no plants grew inside the pit, in contrast to the overgrowth just outside it. Luke's curiosity turns into determination. Grown-ass man can't build a fire, huh? Fuck that. Turns off and begins gathering his materials. A while later, with everyone set up as he had earlier, he tries and tries again to start the fire. The first try, nothing. The second, just smoke. The third try, however, smoke turned to flame. He had made fire. Smoke crept along his still reddened face, feeling a satisfaction he hadn't felt in a long time. He feels the urge to get up and share his accomplishment with his friends, but no, he doesn't move. The fire is just so beautiful. Feet trample the grass behind him, Frank and Paulina being responsible for the noise. There you are! We were getting worried, Frank says. Are you alright? Paulina asks. After a moment of silence, Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better now, Luke says without taking his eyes off the fire. Figured it out. Good shit. Didn't know I had fireplace pits out here, Frank says. Yeah. Lucky me. Come on, we're about to leave for dinner, Paulina adds. Just a minute. I want to enjoy this feeling. Bro, we gotta go now. Come on, Frank stated. Luke doesn't say anything in response. He just stands up without moving his eyes. Should we put the fire out? Nah, this isn't anything flammable nearby. Luke, come on. As if someone snapped their fingers, Luke's fixation on the fire ended, and he looked away. See that? I just built a fire. Yeah, we noticed. Come on, it's time for dinner, Frank says, and the three turn and head back to the group. Later that night, the group heads back to the cabins. They had rented out a village of 5, and as before, split off into groups of 4. Same groups they had in the fire starting class. Cabin interiors were simple. A main room filled with bunk beds, a private counselor's room, and with one bed to the left, and a small bathroom to the right. Hawthorne locked himself in the counselor's room, leaving Luke, Frank, and Paulina alone in the main room, each in their bed preparing to sleep. You ever had a class with Dr. Lawson? Paulina asked the room. Oh my god, yes. I hated her so much, Frank replied. Why? I love her classes. How? She's such an asshole. She would always find a way to insult me every time she graded my work. This is absolutely dreadful. Maybe you should invest your time in something more productive. I mean, even when I got better grade, further proof a broken clock is right twice a day. What? I butchered that. Oh my gosh. Further proof a broken clock is right twice a day. Paulina laughs. I love your Dr. Lawson voice. Thanks. Years of practice right there. Frank leans his head out of the bunk. Luke, you're quiet. What's up? Nothing. I'm listening. Yeah, but you're not saying anything. Usually we can't get you to shut up. You don't have Dr. Lawson's story? No, none that I can think of. Boo, boo, lame. Paulina begins to chuckle. What about Dr. Hawthorne's story? I can hear you. Can you please go to bed? A voice cries out from the other room. Frank whispers, Don't worry. I have a bunch too. He switches back to the room volume. Alright. Well, good night. Paulina and Luke respond accordingly, and the room goes quiet. Frank and Paulina roll over and close their eyes, but Luke continues to stare up at the carving of campfire. Eventually, he drifts off into a sleep. Luke awoken from his slumber by an orange glow emanating from the window. Looks around at the empty room, Frank and Paulina both missing from their beds. Likewise, the door to Hawthorne's room is open, presenting yet another empty bed. He gets up and walks over to the front door, hesitating as he grabs the handle before opening it and stepping out. A bonfire crackles before him, larger than he has ever seen before. The bottom of the flame burned a deep orange and the top bright yellow flickering among the treetops. The entire class stands around the bonfire, while staring deep within. Luke closes the door slowly, but when it clicks shut, it sounds as if it were slammed. The crowd all turns to stare at Luke, a smile etched on each of their faces. Not apart from the human circle, but closer to the fire stood Dr. Hawthorne. His face blackened out. Luke slowly walks towards the flame to his left. A crowd of people watches, face emotionless, none recognizable. He walks up to Dr. Hawthorne and recognizes his signature look of disappointment. Hawthorne takes a step back and raises an arm to the fire, prompting Luke to walk closer. He feels the urge to stop and walk away, especially as his skin begins to boil and pop, but he just can't help himself. His body is swallowed by the bonfire, and he finally begins to feel it. The ecstasy. Luke, what are you doing? Turns around to see Hawthorne in his pajamas staring at him worriedly. The moon is shining brightly above, and the orange glow of the bonfire is gone. Luke is standing inside an empty fire pit. Come on, let's get back to bed. The next afternoon, the group gathers at the peak, one of the tallest points in the entire camp, where Lochwood's famed zip line begins, stretching across the skies of the entire camp. It's a long 2-minute ride, one of the longest in the country. Everyone is lined up, waiting impatiently for their turn to enjoy the fruit of their hour-long hike up the mountains. Luke and Frank are grouped together towards the back of the line. I don't know why they can't just drive us up here. That walk is exhausting. I think Luke was about to ready to pass out, Frank stated. Maybe the ride will wake me up, Luke jokes. After a long wait, the two finally walk up to the podium and begin preparing for their trip back down. With the protective gear on, they strap up their respective lines, and the counselor begins counting down. 3, 2, 1! They step off and immediately begin speeding down, shooting wind, painting permanent smiles on their faces. Frank cheers, Luke laughs. Below them scurry around the tiny human-shaped ants, some playing baseball, some swimming in the lake, all having a good time. About halfway down the zipline, Luke's demeanor changes. In the middle of the grassy field, in the midst of a crowd of children, stands a man on fire. It's difficult to tell who he is, but one thing is clear. He's staring back up at him. As I ride closer and closer, all sounds begin to dim, replaced by a sharp ringing. The flames have fully engulfed the man, and yet no one surrounding him seems to care. The man just keeps staring at Luke, completely oblivious to the chunks of boiling flesh that begin sliding off his bones. Frank. What? Frank! What? Do you see that? See what? I pass the man by and all sounds come back. Nothing. I saw a bald eagle. Oh, cool. Frank begins singing the national anthem. At the end of the zip line, the two disembark their ride and gather with the rest of the group. While Frank shakes with excitement, Luke looks visibly distraught. Luke looks up, noticing Dr. Hawthorne talking to him. Are you okay? Not really. I don't feel too good. Do you need to see a doctor? No, I just need to sleep, that's all. You know the way back to the cabin? Luke nods his head and walks off away from the group. I'll see you later, Frank says, confused. Luke heads back to the cabin and lies in his bed. What the hell's going on? What's wrong with me? He closes his eyes, trying his hardest to fall asleep, but after what feels like an hour, his eyes shot open. The sun is beginning to set, and the rest of the group heads back to their cabins. Their hunger satisfied from dinner, Dr. Hawthorne heads over to the fire pit and lights a campfire, as the rest of the students head to their respective cabins. Frank and Paulina open the door, hoping to find Luke's recovered, but the cabin is empty. Luke? No answer. No Luke. Not anywhere. The two rush back to inform Hawthorne, who doesn't seem too surprised to hear the news. I'll call someone. He can't have gotten far. They head back to their cabin and begin to put things away. Hey, you remember the fire starting class? Frank asked. Yeah, when Luke ran off into the woods? You remember how weird he was acting, around the fire pit? To exchange a look signifying that they were on the same page, they sneak out back door and begin to trek up the mountain. They make it to the place where the class was held and see no sign of Luke, as expected. They flick their flashlights on and sneak into the woods, trying to make as little sound as possible. They know they're not supposed to be out at this time of night, best not to draw too much attention. Eventually they see the orange glow of a campfire, and after getting closer, they find Luke, sitting in front of it in the same spot he was that night prior, continuing to stare into the flame. Luke, what are you doing, man? He asked, and continuing to walk closer. He notices that Luke's face is covered in sweat, mouth slightly open. Are you okay? Paulina asked. It's clear to them that Luke hasn't moved an inch in hours. Come on, Luke, we have to go, Frank says as he grabs a hold of Luke's arm. Luke starts to slowly turn his head toward Frank, making it evident that he'd been crying. After exchanging a moment, Luke snaps out of it, pupils dilating, and he begins screaming his lungs out, ripping his arm off of Frank's hand and scamping back away to the two, away from the fire. Luke, it's okay, it's me, Frank! Luke, you need to be quiet. Luke's screaming starts to quiet down as Paulina puts a reassuring hand on his shoulder. He continues to breathe intensely. You gotta get me out of here, he blurts out. Come on. Paulina replies, holding a hand out. Luke grabs it and just stands up, starting to cry. I just want to go home. It's okay. Come on. We'll take you back. She continues, and the three head back to their cabin. The next day, everyone begins packing up their things. The bus arrives at noon, and it's almost over. After packing up and getting ready, they head out at the dining hall, where the bus will pick them up. Waiting inside the table are loads of books and board games, enough to keep them entertained until the time of departure. While the others engage in The offered entertainment, Luke sits in a corner, alone, bags under his eyes, mouthing something to himself. Dr. Hawthorne stands nearby, trying to keep an eye on him. When a staff member walks up to him, Luke couldn't catch the entire conversation, but he understood the most important part. Your boss caught fire. They're sending another, but it's not getting here until 8. Luke looks up in horror while Hawthorne successfully tries to figure out another solution. It's been hard enough to hold back the urge already. Can he last another few hours? Frank walks over, holding a board game, and plops it down in front of him. Luke, you're going to take your mind off whatever's bothering you, and you're going to play with me. Frank, I'm not in the mood right now. Luke, come on. You really need to. Frank, I told you I'm not in the fucking mood. Okay, fine. Frank picks up this game and walks back over to Paulina, who is watching the whole encounter with concern. Hours pass. The sun begins to set, and still no sign of the bus. Luke the entire time had not moved after his mouth had dried up like a desert. He had to get a drink. He walked over to grab a glass of water, drawing the attention of Hawthorne, who followed him. Luke downed the entire cup in one swig, filled it up again, and turned to head back to when he almost bumped into Hawthorne. Luke, we need to talk. What? Listen, kid, I don't know what's been going on with you, but I feel that whatever's wrong hasn't started here. Now, I've had you as a student since you were a freshman. I know that you're capable of, yet over the years, your performance has gotten worse and worse. Hawthorne's rehearsed speech begins to fade into the background as Luke's over his shoulder. The counselor begins lighting a fire in the fireplace. It looks so beautiful. Time begins to slow and everything around the fire starts to blur. The ringing comes back, rattling his brain in the background. Through the fog, he hears one recognizable voice. The bus is here! Luke snaps back into reality. Oop, there goes gravity. Sorry, I got it on myself. And if it means another couple of years, so be it, but I think that's what you should really think about doing. Luke's up at the Hawthorne's eyes with a blank stare and stapled onto his face. Luke, were you listening to anything I said? The girl walks by holding a plate of dinner. In one motion, Luke drops his glass of water, spins around and grabs a fork off her plate and stabs it into the side of Hawthorne's neck. Blood spurting out of contact. Hawthorne gasps in pain and walks backward uncontrollably, not taking his eyes off Luke. He trips over a bump on the floor and falls backward, cracking his head open on a table. The entire room stops and stares, people gasping and screaming at the sight of the old man lying in an ever-expanding pool of blood. Luke, facial expression still unchanged, turns and runs out of the front door. Staff unable to catch him. Frank and Paulina run after him, knowing exactly where he's headed. They make it up to the woods where the elusive fire pit is held. Though not too far away, they weren't able to catch up until now. The fire pit is the fire pit is in view now. Though Luke had been quick up to this point, trips on a branch, giving the two enough time to catch up and grabs his arms. Let me go! Struggled against the two, but it's no use. He's not strong enough to break free of his own. You're done. Come on, Frank shouts, trying to wrangle him back to the woods. Please, please let me go! Suddenly, a spark appears in the fire pit. The spark begins to emit smoke, and from there, it grows into a large orange flame. Frank and Paulina stare awestruck, and Luke looks on in horror. He begins to screech in a primal yell before swinging around and biting Paulina in the neck, puncturing a jugular vein. As Frank screams in horror, Luke yanks his head back. Blood begins pouring out of her neck as she falls limp, then turns to Frank, breaks free from his grip, and proceeds to stick his thumb in Frank's eye sockets. Frank screams in agony as Luke's finger digs further and further, pushing out two red, veiny eyeballs and the cords holding them in place. Gosh. Oh, it just went from like 1 to 100 like that. Oh my gosh. And the cords holding them in place. He lets go and Frank falls to the ground, eyeballs dangling from his face. An hour later, the police arrive, having been called over by the counselor who had heard Frank's blood-curdling screams. They find a sweaty, bloodied Luke, still sitting in the same spot as before, still staring into the fire, mouth agape, drool pouring out, specks of ash stick to his bloodshot eyes. It's clear that he hasn't blinked in an hour. Guns drawn, the officers tell him not to move, and he stays frozen, staring. An officer cuffs his hands, and as they begin to pull him away, he starts screaming, raging like a lunatic. He tries to speak, but the words are jumbled and unintelligible. He squirms and pulls, never taking his eyes off the fire until the fire is out of sight. Suddenly, he shrieks out in pain. His legs go limp. He falls to the ground, foam spewing out of his mouth, head twitching, eyes rolled up into his head. By the time the ambulance arrives, Luke is pronounced dead. They zip up the body bag, load him into the vehicle, and drive off. On the outside, he's gone, but on the inside, he's still there. You can feel it. the ecstasy. Everything is black. Everything is silent. Everything except, of course, for that beautiful fire. Interesting. I'm not gonna lie, I was getting bored, but up until that part where I kind of understood what that fire was, it kind of turns people primal from what I get. Like, it just, like, devolves them into just a mess of just, uh, going full, monkey. You know what I mean? It's kind of, I mean, I don't mean to devolve the story. I'm just, like, kind of memeing on it. But it's just how I saw it. It's really cool. I like the setup kind of did bore me, but the end made up for it. Just assaulting and just blood going everywhere. It, like I said, it just went from 1 to 100 like that. So, all right, on to our last part of the Lockwood entry: the fisherman and the frog. Kind of sounds like a folktale. I'm kind of excited to read this one. So, all right, let's get into it. Hey everyone, it's Josh again. Remember the last time how I said I was found on 4chan threads about the wailing man there in the woods? Yeah, well now I'm seeing posts about people becoming obsessed with their fire pits. Like, majorly obsessed. To the point of killing anyone who tries to pull them away. The weird thing is, a lot of these articles I'm reading are old. Like from years ago. There was one I read about an old lady who wouldn't stop staring at her fire. A cat walked up, begging for food, and when it rubbed up against her, she grabbed it and tossed it into the fire. The cat was okay, it ran off and put the fire out. Just sustained some burns, but the lady was not. The police arrived later and found her head dead, her head burned in this fire. She was smiling. There was another one from 10 years ago about a hiker who got lost in the woods. Spent weeks searching for him, and finally found him sitting by a campfire. Eyes dried up like rocks. Cut out his own eyelids. Still alive, though. Anyway, there's something weird going on. I'm all into that true crime missing 411 shit, I swear. Should have heard one of these stories by now, but this is all new to me. First it's wailing man stuff, now it's obsessive campfires. I want to do a little experiment. I searched up everything I could about the next story, wrote it all down, and took some pictures. If I find anything new after this, then we know something is up. Here's entry 3. Okay. Hold on. 1 minute. I want to get a drink of water. My mouth, my throat is drying up. Okay. Whew. Oh, excuse me. Nothing but the best for this channel and my viewers, right? Alright, let's go. You know, for someone who grew up in a rural town and spent his entire life outside, you'd assume I had a thing for fishing. Admittedly, I'm not a big fan. Now I've got nothing against the act of fishing, and every so often I enjoy relaxing out in the pond, catching a couple of panfish and cooking them up on the fire. However, I'm ashamed to admit that I find it rather dull, but I do see the allure, especially here at Lochwood. I believe we have some of the best fishing in the world here. Not only is Loch Mackenzie stocked full of diverse array of fish, but we're also famous for our flying fish. Every weekend, the lake and our rivers are flocked with fishers, young and old, and no one leaves here without feeling at least a nibble. Unfortunately, for the safety of our guests, we have to impose a strict time limit. For those who stay too long, risk falling victim to the fog. Wait, fog? Oh, I'm sorry. It's the fisherman in the fog. I thought it said fisherman in the frog. Where did I see the R from? Goodness. I need to lock in. My goodness. All right. Now I'm going to tell you a quick story to preface the main event. Decades ago, when Lochwood was in its youth, a fisherman came by, taking full advantage of our outdoor sporting program. He was an old man, former employee, well into retirement. And though he knew the rules, he was too stubborn to stick to them. Took a boat into the Loch Mackenzie and, in line with his character, refused to wear a life jacket. That day, the fog was horrible. You couldn't see 2 feet in front of you. Shouldn't have gone out in the first place. Standing along the edge of the lake were 2 counselors who had been fishing for hours. Without paying attention to the sounds of the boat, one cast his line as far as he could. Its hook landed on the collar of the old man's jacket. Feeling a snag in the line before the old man could react, the boy yanked on his pole and pulled the man into the lake. Hearing his yelling and splashing around in the water, the 2 counselors ran off in fear of trouble, not realizing the old man couldn't swim. Drowned that night, its only source of salvation running off to the cabins. Weeks later, after narrowing down what he could have gone, the police searched through the lake and found his body, flesh shredded with fish hooks. The old man ended up as a snag. Ever since, whenever... Oh, gosh. Oh, can you imagine that? Just fishing and it snags on something? It could be anything. Just imagining it to be like someone's dead body is just... Oh, gosh, what a visual. Ever since, whenever the fog rolls in, fishermen must beware, for the old fisherman of fog searches for the two that took his life, claiming the souls of all in his way. For the most part, people fish here with no problem. However, countless people have gone missing along the rivers and lakes of the wilderness, all leaving their fishing gear behind. Tonight, I'm going to tell you about the most recent incident. If you aren't ready, I suggest you head out to the nearest lake, bring a fishing pole, and make sure to keep an eye out for the fisherman in the fog. Got everything? Peter slams in the trunk shut and looks back to Caleb. His overeager partner, who's all decked out in fishing gear, the kind you'd see in a movie. Peter, on the other hand, is wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants. Yeah, let's go. The two slip into the brush and disappear into the woods. Above, the sun tries to fail to poke through the endless plain of clouds, which had just finished watering the forest. Every other step sinks an inch into the muddy ground, spurting up pockets of air. The occasional gust of wind shakes loose a torrent of water droplets from the needles of the countless evergreens dotting the path. Caleb shivers, having been soaked by the tree's leftover rain. It's cool for a summer afternoon. I hate having to walk 10 miles just to go fishing, Peter says. Oh, come on, it's not that long a walk. Besides, the fishing's only good because no one else knows about the spot. I don't want to risk parking too close. Whatever you say. After around 15 minutes of walking, they come to a clearing. The river flows into a large pool, which then returns to the river at the end. Straight ahead stands a ledge of rock. An old tree just to its left hangs on the pool. An old gray rope hangs from one of its branches. The clearing used to be a secret swimming hole. Counselors would hike back in the day. Has since been untouched for years until it was rediscovered by Caleb. Peter walks over to an old, half-rotted picnic table near the pool. How it got there remains a mystery. All right, Pete, let's get dinner. I bet I can't catch more than you. Yeah, I bet you can catch more than me, too. That's not the mentality to have. Oh, right. If I just think more positively, the fish will bite more. That's the spirit. Right. Peter grabs a night crawler out of the little plastic container he just put out and... Oh my gosh. Focus. Focus, you dweeb. Peter grabs a night crawler out of the little plastic container he just put down and hooks into his pole. A brownish sludge squeezes out of the hole poked through the poor worm's body. You ever feel bad for them? For what? You know, the worms. Pete, they're worms. They have no feelings. Yeah, but just look at it. The worm attempts to wriggle away to no avail. Caleb, after successfully mounting his worm, begins to walk over to the water. Just don't think about it. Caleb grabs a hold of the line with his right hand, uses his left to flick open the lock, and in one motion moves the pole over to his right shoulder and quickly swings it back out into the water, releasing the line at just the right moment. His worm lands in the middle of the pool. Peter attempts to do the same. His worm makes it a couple of feet. His apathy forbids him from trying any to recast. Ah! Already got a bite. Caleb yanks his pole up to set the hook and begins reeling his first catch. An average-sized yellow perch emerges from the water, being greeted by Caleb's oversized smile. Hey, little guy, have I caught you before? I don't think he speaks English. Hear that, Mr. Fish? Pete don't think you speak English. Dear God. Well, let's get that hook out, and Caleb takes a closer look. Usually, he's good at hooking them in the mouth, making them easy to remove. However, the hook had disappeared down the unfortunate fish's throat. The perch flops in Caleb's hand, attempting to flee. I hooked this one deep. You need the pliers? Nah, knife. Occasionally, a deep hook can be salvaged. In this case, it's not worth the effort. Peter hands him the knife, and after cutting it, he flings the fish off into the distant bush and heads over to the table to tie another hook. While fiddling with his line, Peter stands guard with his line, occasionally reeling in ever so slightly to draw attention. Suddenly, he feels tension on his line, and his apathy turns to excitement. I got something! Peter frantically reels in his bounty, a long stick. Stickfish! Nice! Yeah, fucker ate my worm, too! Tosses the stick into the woods and goes for another worm. After a bit of time... What? Can you see I'm reading a story here? I will take care of you in a minute. Alright? I promise. Okay? Be a good boy and be patient. Alright. Sorry, my dog is bugging me. I'll take care of it in a minute, I promise. Tosses the stick into the woods and goes for another worm. After a bit of time, the two are back in the water. Hours pass, and the sun begins to set. Peter's exhausted, fantasizing about the comfort of his couch. Caleb, on the other hand, is still full of energy. By this point, he had caught 13 fish. Peter caught 2. Peter, trying to fend off boredom, follows a blue jay hopping along the ground across the pool, flaps its wings, and shoots off to the right. Peter's eyes quickly following it until they stop. Fixating on a rolling cloud of fog, he feels a lump in his chest. Hey, Caleb? How long have we been out here? I don't know. The alarm hasn't gone off, so I think we're... He pauses, noticing the fog. Caleb pulls out his phone and notices the distinct lack of an alarm. The fog continues to roll in, covering half the pool. Caleb, did you forget to set an alarm? Drop your pole and run. I thought we were supposed to run from this. What do you mean? Let's go! The entire pool is covered with thick, puffy fog, impossible to see through. It continues to spread, finally reaching the two fishers. God damn it, Peter, let's go! Peter takes one last look before dropping his pole and running off with Caleb. Out of the corner of his eye, he swears he saw a man standing in the distance. They run off into the trail, the fog spreading faster. It floods in like water, enveloping the entire forest. At this point, Peter can barely see Caleb. Wait up! Pete, we need to hurry! What happens if we don't get out in time? I don't fucking know, just run! Minutes pass and it feels like they get nowhere. At this rate, they should have made it back to the truck. Yet, the tree... Caleb, we're running in circles. The trail is straight. How the hell can we get lost? They stop and catch the breasts. Their breasts become visible. Peter shivers. It's getting colder. Why is it so cold? I don't know. I don't remember the story. Caleb looks around, noticing a distinct marker on the nearest tree. Recognizes it, for the tree stands near the entrance to the swimming hole. We've been running in circles. Look. He looks over Caleb's shoulder, and his expression changes to a look of terror. Caleb, turn around. Caleb freezes and eventually gathers enough courage to slowly spin his head back. Behind him, barely visible in the distance, sends a gray shadow of a man. Reaches behind his back and pulls out a fishing pole, swinging it back and casting it into the air. You hear the sound of something shooting through the air, and the fog man disappears. Pete? What the hell was that? The two stare up into the sky, sounds of creaking rope echoing across the woods. Suddenly they hear a ticking sound behind them. They turn towards the source and spot a rusty hook descending from the sky. To the left, two more come down. To the right, even more, dangling hooks, all from different shapes and sizes. Some with point, some with multiple. Caleb, run. Run where? I don't know, just follow me. The two run off along the trail through the dangling hooks. The further they go, the denser the forest the hooks become. They run along on the same trail over and over and over again, and yet they don't seem to get any closer to their truck. Caleb, too exhausted to look where he's going, proceeds to trip over a rock. Peter vanishes into the fog. Pete, wait up! As Caleb starts to get up, Peter rushes back through the fog. He grabs onto Caleb's shoulder. Caleb, you okay? Yes, I'm fine. We're gonna get out of here. We're gonna get through this. As Peter speaks, Caleb notices something in his mouth. Something shining. Pete, what's in your mouth? Peter pauses and stares into Caleb's eyes. Slowly, his jaw hinges open. Peter, what's going... Suddenly, a hook bursts out of Peter's mouth and into Caleb shooting down his throat. The line yanks back and he feels a sharp pain in his chest. Peter disintegrates into fog, revealing a hanging fishing line. Peter rushes out of the fog. Caleb, what's going on? A ticking is heard in the sky above, and the line begins to rise. Help me. Jesus Christ, help me! Fuck! How deep is it? Peter goes to look, but Caleb interrupts him. I can feel it in my chest. Jesus Christ, get it out! Shit, fuck! The knife in the tackle box. It's over there. I'll be right back. Peter runs off, and the line continues to rise. By the time he gets back, it's nearly straight up. Hurry! Hurry! Hold on! Pulls out a knife, grabs the line, puts the blade up to it, and tries to cut it. Though he has always been able to... Sorry, there was a mosquito on me. Though he has always been able to cut fishing line with ease, this line was not cut. What the fuck? Caleb begins screaming. The hooks dig deeper, and he begins to rise. Fucking help me! Peter grabs onto Caleb's shoulders and climbs up, grabbing onto the line. Continues to try and cut it, but it's no use. The line will not break. The hook slices through his esophagus and climbs up in his throat, settling at the base of his neck. It hurts, holy shit, help! I don't know what to do! Peter loses his balance and falls, landing on his feet. He feels a sharp pain in his right ankle. What the fuck, Caleb? Pete, dear God, help me! Caleb rises up through the fog and disappears. Peter looks down at his ankle. It bulges out unnaturally and starts to bruise and swell. Begins to sob. God damn it, what the fuck? Above, he can hear Caleb's cries. Suddenly, they stop. He hears a loud bang followed by a grinding sound. Caleb? Peter looks up at the sky. Nothing. Silence. Suddenly, a torrent of blood and guts start raining down. Ground up chunks of flesh, brain matter, and sharp chirps of bone begin pelting him. Some making their way into his mouth. The raining flesh continues for a bit and lets up. Spits out a tooth. What the fuck? He can hear a chorus begin to sing around him. As he looks around, hundreds of foggy human silhouettes begin forming, each with piercing blue eyes. Above, he can see another one, slowly lowering out of the fog. Its glowing eyes stare back at him, and its mouth hangs open, a hook snuggled in its throat. Peter frantically slides back. Jesus Christ! The figure hits the ground and pulls the hook out with ease. Disappears, and everything goes silent. Peter looks up to his right. The same figure seen earlier stands and stares at him. It reaches behind his back and pulls out a fishing pole. No, 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 no! Peter scrambled up and frantically limps away as the hook began falling, swinging all around him. One hook hits his arm and tears away at his skin. Another hits the side of his neck. One swings down and pierces his broken ankle, tearing away at it and releasing a stream of blood. He ducks his head and holds his arms up, trying to shield his face. Pete, wait up! He looks back. Hook swings into his eyes and pulls up. As he turns away, it scrapes around his eye socket, tears into his eyelids, and is forcefully yanked out, ripping off a chunk of his eyelid and pulling out of the lens of his eye. As he screams in agony, his broken ankle gets snagged on a tree root. He falls forward, tumbling down a hill. He lies on the ground, weeping to himself, and slowly looks up. He's below the fog and is staring right at the front of his truck, with tears in his eye. He pulls together the last bit of willpower he has left and limps his way to his truck. Swings the door open, shoves the key, and it starts right up. Before he steps on the pedal, though, he looks back at the woods. The fog has all but disappeared. All of it, except for two figures staring back. It dries off, and they fizzle into nothing. And that was the Lochwood series. Thank you once again to the author for letting me read your stories. I really do appreciate it. It all felt like I was reading grim fairy tales, and that just kind of brought back some memories because that's the book I've been using for my prop here, is the OG grim fairy tale stuff. So again, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. All the links will be in the description below if you want to check out the author's story. So thank you again. Thank you. And I will see you in the next story. Night all.